Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are unpacking a truly fascinating and honestly highly unconventional perspective on one of the 20th century's biggest historical moments. I'm talking about the Apollo moon missions. We're diving into the claims made in Ryuho Okawa's book, Remote Viewing: The Dark Side of the Moon. Now, I'll be walking you through the author's highly alternative assertions about the real reason humanity just abruptly stopped going to the moon. Remember, our goal here is to impartially explore the source material and its unique claims. So no matter where you stand on the subject, buckle up because it is a wild ride.
Have you ever actually stopped to wonder why we just quit going to the moon? It's a completely fair question, isn't it? After this massive, intense space race that literally captivated the entire globe, lunar exploration just halted. It's an undeniable historical anomaly. We went from taking one giant leap for mankind to seemingly just turning our backs on our closest celestial neighbor. This abrupt end sets up a fascinating historical mystery, and, well, it's the exact starting point for the investigation in our source material today.
So think about the timeline for a second. The accepted historical narrative tells us that funding cuts and fading public interest are what killed the Apollo program. But our source asks us to look a little closer. We had the historic first landing in 1969, right? Then, in 1970, that near-fatal mysterious explosion on Apollo 13. Finally, Apollo 17 in 1972 marked the very last landing. But here's the crucial part. Missions up to Apollo 20 were already planned. They were in the pipeline. The author asserts that the program wasn't just gradually defunded, it was prematurely and urgently terminated.
According to the text, incidents like the mysterious oxygen tank explosion on Apollo 13, which obviously forced the crew to abandon their landing, and that sudden, definitive cancellation after Apollo 17, they aren't just a string of bad luck. They aren't just budgetary red tape. The author suggests these incidents actually point to a terrifying hidden narrative. What if humanity didn't just lose interest? What if we were, essentially, warned away?
Section 1. Investigating the Unseen. The method of remote viewing.
Okay, so since booking a commercial flight to the moon isn't exactly an option just yet, the author turned to a highly unconventional investigative method to explore this hidden narrative. Back on March 12, 2013, a live remote viewing session was actually recorded at the Happy Science headquarters. The author claims to have used a specific spiritual capability to project a portion of his consciousness 380,000 kilometers across space. He did this publicly with an audience, claiming to instantly travel to and explore the dark side of the moon. You know, the side that is permanently hidden from Earth's view.
Section 2. What lurks on the dark side?
During this session, the author zeroes right in on a very precise location. He targets two massive impact sites on the far side, known as the Tsiolkovsky and Fermi craters. And according to the reading, this isn't just barren rock and space dust. No, this specific area is allegedly home to hidden, artificial structures and highly advanced alien bases.
To really drive home the historical mystery of this claim, the author brings up the legendary science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke. Clarke actually once wrote about the Tsiolkovsky Crater, expressing this profound sense of dread. He literally stated that we simply do not know what is lurking around its vast expanse. The source highlights this to suggest that even brilliant, imaginative minds kind of sensed there was an inconvenient truth hidden in the shadows of that specific lunar spot.
Section 3. The aliens' true purpose.
So if there are indeed bases up there, what exactly are these extraterrestrial beings doing right next door to Earth? Well, the text gets remarkably specific here. It categorizes several different types of extraterrestrial entities allegedly present on the moon. It mentions goat-type beings operating a forward base, entities from the Sirius star system that resemble lobsters and scorpions, and even beings from Essassani, who purportedly communicate with Earth through spiritual channelers. According to the author, these diverse groups aren't just passing through, they're maintaining an active, multi-species outpost.
And they aren't just peacefully observing us either. The source asserts that these entities are actively studying human genetics, they're gathering millions of patterns of human behavioral data, and they're even utilizing advanced transfer devices to abduct humans. The overarching claim here is one of preparation. They're intensely studying us in order to assimilate or at least seamlessly interact with humanity.
In fact, the author explicitly describes these lunar bases as a learning center and a rehabilitation outpost. The really fascinating idea presented here is that before interacting with Earth, or even before their souls reincarnate as actual humans on our planet, these extraterrestrials use the moon as this sort of acclimatization zone. They study our biological and behavioral makeup to literally learn how to exist among us.
Section 4. The Covered-Up Inconvenient Truth.
Now this brings us to the dramatic intersection of these alleged alien bases and our very own Apollo astronauts. And this is really the crux of the author's narrative. The Apollo astronauts actually witnessed inconvenient truths that they were never meant to see. The claim is that they encountered artificial structures, UFO oases, and extraterrestrial beings right there on the dark side of the moon. The text claims this shock was so profound that, and I quote, "the majority of those who came must have gone mad." Encountering these terrifying entities face-to-face completely broke the astronauts psychologically, and this massive cover-up of the facts is framed as the true catalyst for the sudden end of the Apollo program.
The book even goes as far as suggesting a shockingly alternative history regarding the origins of the space race itself. It asserts that President John F. Kennedy didn't initiate the Apollo program simply as a geopolitical flex to beat the Soviets. Instead, the text claims he was driven by this desperate, secretive desire to access this pre-existing alien base on the moon.
Ultimately, the author argues that the abrupt cancellation of the Apollo missions was the direct result of this terrifying encounter. The astronauts and the government realized there was a vast, completely insurmountable technological gap between humanity and these beings. The hidden truth, the source claims, was simply too dangerous. It forced humanity into a terrified silence, prompting an immediate and permanent retreat from lunar exploration, just to hide this inconvenient reality from the public.
Which leaves us here. We've explored the highly alternative claims presented in Remote Viewing the Dark Side of the Moon. The source paints a picture of a universe that is far more crowded and perhaps far more calculating than our history books suggest. So, whether you view this as a compelling spiritual investigation or purely as a fascinating piece of science fiction, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. If the moon is truly a watchtower, as this book claims, who is observing us right now? Thank you for joining me on this explainer. Until next time, keep questioning what you see.